Hello everyone and welcome to the Social Clone Project. What we're going to be doing here in part 1 is beginning by building out our basic setup for the project. That is the basic directories and just the basic structure for our code. We're also going to be giving you a quick tour of how you can customize your own Atom environment. You'll notice that as we actually code out through this second clone project, our environment is going to look a little different style-wise, such as the UI or the color scheme, versus the previous project. So I'm going to show you how you can set up and customize your own Atom environment. Okay, let's hop over to Atom and get started. Alright, here I am at my Atom text editor, and you'll notice that for one thing I'm actually going on this with a Mac operating system, so it's going to look a little different. But the other thing you may have noticed is the actual color scheme and the theme looks a little different. So I want to actually describe how you can do this on any system. What you need to do is go to Settings, or if you're on a Mac, Preferences. So just open up the Preferences or Settings, or just restart Atom, and usually you'll see a link to the settings, and that looks like this. This is basically the same page where we are actually installing packages. And if you come over here to where it says Themes, you basically have two things you can really edit. It's the syntax theme and the UI theme. The UI theme, that styles the tabs, the status bar, tree view, drop downs, etc. And you can actually install themes that people create. So there's a ton of community themes here that you can look at. Or when you actually click over here on Install, you can search for themes. So click on Themes and then take a look and search around for different themes that you may be familiar with if you've worked with other IDEs. Or you can just look at the featured theme packages. Coming back to themes, so here I have this SETI or SETI theme. That's one of my favorites to work with. And then you can click here on this little settings tool and you can edit the UI theme further to your liking. And you can also select the syntax theme here to actually select the syntax. So if you like a light background or a dark background, whatever sort of color scheme you like, you can select that as well. And always you can click here on the settings icon and then style that a little more. If you want to further style the Atom text editor, you can click here on Style Sheet. And using your new CSS skills, you can actually do different stylings on this actual Atom text editor. So you can edit the background color of the tree view, the text editor, edit that background color, etc. So go ahead and play around with that. I'm going to leave the settings I have right now and get started with the actual project. So I've already created a project folder called Simple Clone, and inside of this I'm going to start my command line tool to actually create the project. So we will say Django -admin, and then I will say Start Project, and I'm just going to call it Simple Social, and then hit Enter. You can call it Star Social or whatever you want. And you'll notice now I have the Simple Social, so there's Simple Social, and then I have my settings, URLs, etc. So that's looking good. And the last thing I want to do is inside of this, I'm also going to start an application. So I will say cd into Simple Social, and then list here so I can see my manage.py and my main project file or folder, Simple Social. And then I'm going to say Django admin. You can also do this with manage.py if you wanted to. Start app, and we're going to start off with the accounts application. So that's really the main application we're going to be focusing on at first, and then later on we'll add things like posts, groups, etc. So I'm going to start the accounts application, and there we go. We have it right here. So that's good to go. And what I'm going to do is add in a couple more directories that we're going to be needing along the way. We won't deal with all of them right now, but we might as well create them. So underneath Simple Social, I will create a templates directory. So a new folder, templates, and if you wanted to, you could also do this straight from the command line. So there's my templates directory, and I'm going to leave those as empty templates that I can later use for the main project page. Things like my base.html or my index.html or even a thank you page. Then the next thing I'm going to do is set up my static folder. So I will say static for my folder. Sometimes people also call this assets. And then what I'm also going to do is set up a couple folders in here. So I'm going to set up a Simple Social. So let's click on static, create a new folder, and set up inside of static. Whoops, let's try that again. New folder, Simple Social. Hit enter and then expand static, and there I see Simple Social. And inside of that, I'm going to create two new folders called CSS for all my CSS files, and then new folder in there called JS for all my JavaScript files. And maybe if you want some top level CSS, sometimes what some people do is inside of static, just at the very top level, they'll say CSS, and then inside of this they'll have some sort of master CSS file. So you can say new file and call this master.css. So I'll do that as well, just so everything matches along with the actual project notes. Okay, so now that we have all that, what I'm going to do is just set up my settings.py file inside of the Simple Social app to match everything so we can be ready to go when we're actually working with accounts. So open up the settings.py file, And what we're going to do is add in just the usual that we've been doing, plus a couple more lines of code. So the first thing I want to do is right at the top where it says base directory, and I'm going to actually collapse my tree now so I get a little more room to work with. I will say template underscore directory is equal to os.path join, and I'm going to join the base directory with templates. There we go. So now that's ready to go. And then the next thing I'm going to do is scroll down to where it says installed apps. And what I'm going to do is add in accounts. Now I'm just going to add only accounts for now. There's still a lot more stuff we have to add in, such as groups, posts, and we're also going to add in something called Humanize and Bootstrap 3. But we'll talk about those when we actually end up using them. So for right now, I'll just put in accounts there. And then I'm going to keep scrolling down to where it says templates, so that list. As always, we come over to the directories and add in that template dir that we just created. So then scroll down and save that. And then all the way at the bottom, if I scroll all the way down, what I'm going to do is right underneath static URL, I'm also going to add my static files underscore dir. So the directory for my static files, and that's going to just be, I'll put that in as a list, os.path join, and that's going to be base directory joined with the word static, just so it matches up what I have. Now some people like to put the static files directory all the way at the top here with the other directories. I personally like putting it down here because this is kind of where Django by default indicates where static files should go. So again, the only things I added right now were these static files. Coming all the way back up, I also added in the template directory, and then I added in my accounts installed applications. So now that we have that, I'm going to kind of expand my command line here. Let me clear it. If you are on Windows, that will be CLS. Since I'm on Mac, that's just going to be clear. I'll zoom in just a little bit so you guys can see a better idea of what I'm going to be typing here. And I'm going to say Python manage.py migrate. I'll hit enter, and that's going to do all the initial migrations. And then I'll say Python manage.py make migrations for my accounts. I'll hit enter there, and it said no change detected in app account. Perfect. So then I'll say Python manage.py migrate, and we should see no migrations to apply. Okay, let's confirm that we just did everything right by saying Python manage.py run server. I'll hit enter, and it should be running now. So let me open this up. I'll copy and paste this. And now bringing in my actual Chrome browser, or whatever browser you happen to be using, at that link, it worked. Congratulations on your first Django powered page. Okay, so that's all I wanted to show for this initial part 1. In the next lecture, we're going to dive much deeper into setting up accounts for our actual little simple social clone site. So right now, you should be able to have the Django powered web page working and your settings.py file, as well as the other directories, set up the same way we did. Okay, thanks everyone, and I'll see you at the next lecture.